Alright, today's lesson is Notes 8-4, Multiplying Special Cases. We are going to skip a couple of pages in your composition book. I'm going to ask that you put these notes on the left-hand side of page 57 in your composition book. I didn't give you a paper to take notes on, I just want you to do them directly into your composition book. Okay, first of all, let's start with the definition of the square of a binomial. Okay, I've got them typed out there on the top. And it looks like you put it in parentheses, a plus b, you square it, is equal to a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. And then the other one for it would be in parentheses, a minus b squared is equal to a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. Okay, the definition. The square of a binomial is the square of the first term plus twice the product of the two terms plus the square of the last term. Okay, so that's a lot of words. Sure you don't know what they mean yet, but once we do a couple of them, hopefully you can kind of see what's going on. Okay, so you might want to pause it, copy down those definitions, and then start it again in just a second after you copy down the definition. Okay, so now on your homework, I'm going to kind of go through examples from each of your homework problems that you have to do today. And the first one, we have our first problem here. It's, let me find my cursor. Okay, here it is. Okay, it's x plus 7 squared. So if I do the rules for differences, or square of a binomial, I'm going to square the first term. I'm going to square the second term, which is 7, so it's going to be 7 squared. I'm going to multiply 7 times x, which is 7x, and then take those two terms, and multiply it by 2. The sign that goes right here is the sign that's within the parentheses. So now I have x squared, 2 times 7 is 14x, and then 7 times 7 is 49, and that's my answer. Okay, so although you don't have to do it that way with the shortcut method, you could always just take the two terms and you could multiply them together using the FOIL method or the box method. It would take you just a little bit longer, but if you're totally lost and didn't know what I was doing, you could always do that. Because let me show you. You got x squared, and then you have 7x. Then we multiply that, we get 7x. And then we multiply this, the 7 and 7, we get 49. And when we add these two together, we get 14x plus 49. And then you have over here your x squared. So see how this term, or this answer, is exactly the same as that answer? It's just that we use the shortcut method by using the square of a binomial. Okay, so then the next problem, we're going to use the square of a binomial. So we take the first term, which is 4k, and we put that in parentheses, and we square the whole thing. The last term is always plus, and it's the second term, which is our 3. Now we take 4 times 3 with the k, and we multiply that by 2. And the sign comes from right here. It's a negative. Okay, so now we do everything inside here. We go 4 squared, which is 16. And then we have k squared. So it's k squared. That's our first term. And then this one, we're going to go 4 times 3 is 12. And then you go 12 times 2 is 24, and the negative sign there, and you keep the k. Okay, sorry about that. That was my dog Charlie. I guess the mailman just delivered the mail. Okay, so let's finish this up. So now we've got negative 24k, because I went 4 times 3 is 12, 12 times 2 is 24, and the sign is negative. And then the last one is going to be 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, so that's the square of a binomial. Okay, the next part of your homework is going to ask you to do that mentally. Okay, so I have one here, and it's 53 or 51 squared. So to do that mentally, using the same idea, you can go 50 plus 1 squared. And so if I use the square of a binomial, I take 50 and I square it. I take 1 and I square it. Then I go 50 times 1 is 50, and then I'm going to times that by 2. And so 50 times 2 is 100. 5 times 5 is 25, and there's 2 zeros. And then I have my 1. So when I add 500 plus 100 is 2601. So there's my answer for that one. Okay, then my problem number 4 got erased, but I'll write it with the red pen. So number 4, the problem for mental math is 49 squared. So I'm going to say 49 squared. So I could rewrite 49 as 50 minus 1. Sorry, let me get my dog one more time. Okay, so I can do 50 minus 1 squared. Where's my pen? Squared. So again, the same idea. You're going to take 50 and you square it. You take your 1 and you square it. This time it's going to be a subtraction problem because there's a subtraction problem in the parentheses. And then we said 1 times 50 is 50. 50 times 2 is 100. So we got 2500 minus 100 plus 1. So it's 2401. And that's your answer for doing mental math 49 squared. Again, you could just multiply 49 times 49 and get the same answer. But I'm trying to show you a little bit of shortcut methods here. Okay, the next part is the difference of squares. Another shortcut method that you may find that you like. Definitely in Algebra 2 you will use it, and it'll be something that's going to save you hours of work to recognize these. Okay, difference of squares. You've got a plus b times a minus b is equal to a squared minus b squared. Again, write the definition. The product of the sum and difference of the same two terms is the difference of their squares. So we've got our first problem, number 4. Oh, well, we got 2 number 4s. Okay, number 4. We have d plus 11 and d minus 11. Okay, so the first thing you do is take your term, your term right here, and you're going to square it. So you have d squared. You take your last term, which is 11, and you square it. So now you have d squared is equal to 11 times 11 is 121. Okay, we talked about we could also just multiply these and use a FOIL method or the box method, and we will get the same exact answer that I've got here. And I'm going to multiply this, I get positive 11d, and I multiply this and I get negative 121. But now the 11s and the positive 11 and negative 11 cancel, and we just end up with d squared minus 121, which is what I got right here, but in a shortcut method. Okay, so hopefully you kind of see what we're doing. You take the first, which is c squared, and you square that. You take the last, which is 8, and you square that. It's always minus because it's always difference, so it's always a subtraction problem. And then power to power you multiply, so it's c to the 4th. 8 times 8 is 64, and that's our answer. And again, if we did the FOIL method, we would come up with that answer. But we're doing it in a shortcut method. Okay, then you go t to the 3rd, and you square that. it's always minus because it's a difference of squares, and you have 6 squared. 3 times 2 is 6, so it's t to the 6th minus 36, and that's my answer. So it saves us a lot of time. Alright, now again on your homework you're going to be asked to do these mentally with some just regular numbers with not variables. So I am going to need to get one addition problem and one a subtraction problem. And I look at 82 and 78. Well, if I take 80 and I plus 2, and if I take 80 and I minus 2, 80 plus 2 is 82, and 80 minus 2 is 78. I've still got the same problem, but it's just written in a difference of squares. So I take my 80 and I square it, minus my 2 and I square it. Well, 8 times 8 is 64, or 8 times 8 is 64, and there's 2 zeros, minus 4, it's going to be 6396, and that's my answer for 82 times 78, using the difference of squares. Okay, so looking at number 8, I have 18 and 22. Well, I can do 20 minus 2, which is going to give me my 18. And then I can do 20 plus 2 is my 22. I'm still multiplying the same numbers, just written differently. So I take my 20 and I square it, minus 2 squared. So now I've got 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 0, minus 4, which is going to be 396. And that's my answer for that one. Alright, so we did a squares of a binomial and a difference of squares today. Some shortcut methods for you.